Supreme Court upholds president's power to declare emergency rule, suspending elected officials. Kano community in shock after Muazzim killed, suspect lynched by mob. Nigeria's headline inflation drops to 14.45% in November. And on the foreign scene, at least 37 people killed in flash floods in Morocco. Hello there, a very good evening. Welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Fatima Abbas Hassan, and we begin with the judiciary. The Supreme Court has upheld the constitutional powers of the president to declare a state of emergency in any state to prevent a breakdown of law and order or a descent into chaos. In a split 6-1 decision, the Apex Court ruled that the president may, during a state of emergency, suspend elected officials, provided such suspension is for a limited period. Delivering the lead judgment, Justice Mohammed Idris held that Section 305 of the Constitution empowers the president to deploy extraordinary measures to restore normalcy, noting that the section does not specify the nature of such measures, thereby granting the president discretionary powers. The ruling followed a suit filed by Adamawa State and 10 other PDP-led states, challenging the emergency rule declared by President Bola Tinubu in Rivers State, during which Governor Siminalayi Fubara and other elected officials were suspended for 6 months. While the court struck out the suit for lack of jurisdiction and dismissed it on the merits, Justice Obande Ogunya dissented, ruling that the president cannot suspend elected state officials under emergency powers. And joining us via Zoom to discuss this is a legal practitioner, Mutiu Akinsoya. Hello there, Mutiu. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening.
Okay, now, how far can the president go under Section 305 of the Constitution when declaring a state of emergency? And what safeguards exist to prevent abuse of this discretionary power?
Yes, so the Supreme Court has spoken. The president can go as far as one can imagine. The essence of an emergency rule is to ensure that there is no complete breakdown of law and order. And whatever the president in his own discretion thinks is the best way to maintain law and order, the president can go as far as he thinks or as far as his discretion can accommodate. But for me, the only check to the president's powers is the National Assembly. And until we have a very robust National Assembly that can help to checkmate the excesses of the president whenever issues of states of emergency arises, the president's power may continue to be unfettered. So the National Assembly is there to always check, and one will expect that if this happens in future, that the National Assembly should be there to check whatever excesses that may be contained in whatever proclamation the president issues in respect of a state of emergency.
Now, okay. Now, does this Supreme Court ruling alter the balance of power between federal and state governments, particularly regarding the suspension of elected state officials?
I don't think it does. Looking at this ruling, the ruling that the Supreme Court delivered today, the Supreme Court was not given the opportunity to make this decision based on facts. And the reason is because the Supreme Court itself held that it had no jurisdiction because all of those states that appeared before the Supreme Court were not states that were affected by the emergency proclamation made by the president. What one would have expected is to see River States in the midst of this litigation. But River State was completely absent from the litigation, and all of the states that were before the Supreme Court were states who do not have the locus standi. There were states that were not directly affected by that proclamation. And I'm sure that was why the Supreme Court declined jurisdiction, because they had no cause of action. And even in dealing with the merits of the matter they brought before the Supreme Court also could not place its decision within the facts that were available in what happened in River State. So I'm sure the Supreme Court only looked at Section 305 and decipher from those provisions that the president can make those proclamations, and the president can go as far as he wishes in making those proclamations. If you look at Section 305, Section 305 also allows even a governor to make submissions to the president to declare a state of emergency in his state. Of course, that was not the case in the case of Rivers, but what that means is that there is still a balance. The intention of the law is to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order, and that when such may happen, the president can use his discretion to ensure that there is no complete breakdown of law and order, and that things can still run the way they should run within any state across the federation.
Okay, now, given the court's dismissal of the suit for lack of jurisdiction, what legal options do states have to challenge a presidential state of emergency in future?
Yes, we will have to wait until that future comes. Okay. In this case, like I said, the Supreme Court was not given the opportunity to make its decision within facts that were present in River State. What we expect to see in the future is a situation where states that are affected are bold enough to challenge those powers of the president before the Supreme Court. And one would have expected that River State, that is directly affected by this state of emergency, should have been the state before the Supreme Court, and not other states that were not affected by that proclamation.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mitio Akinsoya, for your insight. We really appreciate your joining us this evening. Now, moving on, troops of the Operation Mesa, comprising personnel of 3 Brigade Nigerian Army in conjunction with the Nigerian Air Force and Nigerian Police, have successfully rescued 3 out of the 5 persons earlier abducted at Lakwaya village of Gwarzo local government area of Kano State. Trust TV reported that unknown gunmen suspected to be bandits launched a fresh attack on Lakwaya town in Gwarzo local government area of Kano, abducting 5 residents. The incident, according to local sources, occurred on Sunday night at Zerim Mahuta village, throwing the community into fear and tension. The village head of Zerim Mahuta, Malami Ungwa, said the attackers stormed the area under the cover of darkness and whisked away the victims to unknown destination. Reacting, Captain Babatunde Zubairu, an assistant director of the Army Public Relations, 3 Brigade Nigerian Army, said 3 persons have so far been rescued. Captain Zubairu had earlier assured that the troops are doing their best to return the victims to them safely. And still from Kano is a report which says that residents of Otoro, Marafa, in Kano metropolis are in shock following the killing of a Muazzim in the early hours of Monday. Residents allege that the attack was carried out by a man said to be a Chadian national living in the community. The suspect was later apprehended and lynched by an angry mob. The incident heightened tension in the neighborhood, prompting swift police intervention to restore calm. Our correspondent, Abdulaziz Ibrahim, has more on that report.
Residents of Maraba quarters in Kano are still reeling from the killing of the Muazzin of Yusuf Garko Mosque, 70-year-old Zubair Qasim Muhammad. One of his 9 children recounts how the family received the devastating news.
Muna zuwa sai nake jin labari wai wani ne a cikin unguwa wanda ake tunanin sun zo ne daga Chadi.
When I arrived, I was told that a man living in this area, reportedly a Chadian who moved here with his family, entered the mosque and attacked my father, leading to his death. Eyewitnesses say the suspect fled the scene but was immediately pursued by residents and later lynched. After he ran away, people chased him. He lives nearby. We were told he also attempted to attack another person before he was caught. One resident who narrowly escaped further harm but sustained an injury spoke anonymously about his ordeal. The noise woke me up. He ran into our compound and forced his way into my room. I was injured before people rushed in and overpowered him. Police investigators later confirmed that key items were recovered from the suspect. The situation escalated further when parts of the suspect's residence were set ablaze, resulting in property damage. He lived here with his family. Some people attacked the house and set part of it on fire before security efforts calmed the situation. Maraba quarters remains tense as residents mourn the death of the Muazzin. Meanwhile, the Kano State Police Command has deployed security personnel to the area to maintain order and restore normalcy. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Kano.
And in Katsina State, insecurity has taken a new turn as residents of Ngoji village area in Kankara local government area reportedly face a 50 million naira levy imposed by bandits Kingpin Babaro. The levy is allegedly being enforced despite the Kakumi peace deal signed months ago. Residents speaking anonymously said they prefer paying the sum through traditional leaders to secure peace, citing ineffective government protection. Daily attacks, including killings, abductions, and cattle rustling, continue in Kankara, particularly in Zangwang, Dansado. Locals are now calling for stronger stakeholder engagement and improved security measures to restore peace. The Nigerian Air Force says it has killed several terrorists and destroyed a logistics hub in Borno State during a precision air interdiction operation. The strike took place on Sunday at Dabar Masara, a known terrorist enclave in the southern Tambuns, as part of ongoing efforts to disrupt terrorist movements and supply networks. In a statement, the Nigerian Air Force spokesperson, Air Commodore Ehimen Ejodame, said the operation followed credible intelligence of a terrorist workshop and sustained armed movement in the area. Surveillance had revealed multiple vehicles concealed under vegetation, confirming the site as an active logistics base. Ejodame added that an integrated force package carried out coordinated surveillance and strike operations. A post-operation assessment confirmed the destruction of the vehicles and the neutralization of several terrorists. He said the operation underscores NAV's commitment to intelligence-driven air operations aimed at degrading terrorist networks and enhancing security in affected areas. Meanwhile, the Borno State Police Command has successfully recovered an unexploded ordnance in Maiduguri, preventing a potential explosion and threat to public safety. The discovery was reported on Monday beneath a network mast in Chuskon, Federal Low-Cost Area, under the directive of CP Naziru Abdul Majid. The EOD team swiftly cordoned off the area and safely neutralized the device. Preliminary checks reveal the UXO with 2 protruding wires had been deliberately placed to cause damage. Following the operation, the police conducted safety awareness sessions for residents during vigilante and prompt reporting of suspicious objects. CP Abdulmajid has directed intensified patrols to protect critical infrastructure while investigations continue and normal activities have resumed. And in Plateau State, gunmen have attacked herders along Gero Road in Jos South local government area, killing 13 cattle and injuring 12 others. The Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria reports. State Chairman Ibrahim Yusuf Babayo said the attack occurred on Sunday evening while the herders were grazing. He condemned the incident and confirmed that it had been reported to Operation Enduring Peace, whose personnel visited the scene. One of the herders, Jabir Abdullahi, said the gunmen arrived on motorcycles and opened fire, forcing them to flee, while 13 cattle were shot dead. The Angel Development Association said the perpetrators are unknown and urged security agencies to investigate. They described the area as a high-risk zone where crimes, including killings and motorcycle theft, occur frequently. Magban called on members to remain calm and avoid taking the law into their hands, stressing that peace must be maintained while investigations continue. President Bola Tinubu has paid tribute to the late former President Muhammadu Buhari, describing him as a leader of integrity, humility, and disciplined service. Speaking at the presentation of the book, From Soldier to Statesman, The Legacy of Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja, Tinubu said Buhari will be remembered not for the privileges of office, but for the values he upheld long after power faded. He extended condolences to the Buhari family, recalling their shared political journey, including the coalition that led to the historic 2015 election victory. The book, reviewed as a balanced account of Buhari's life, highlights his commitment to public service.
The measure of a leader is simply not the offices he held or the motorcade that accompanied him. It was in what persists when rain falls silent. President Muhammadu Buhari left behind a reputation of integrity, a Spartan lifestyle, and the belief that public office is a trust and not a windfall. He was my friend, a compatriot, my partner as president, but as a brother, friend, and political partner who shared a journey with President Buhari throughout challenging times. Together, we built a broad coalition, campaigned across the country, and proved that Nigeria could chart a new course.
Your presence today is a kindness we will not forget. You have honored our father and husband not only with your words, but also with your prayers and embraces. Mr. President, our dear Daddy, thank you for being here and for the warmth of your tribute. You and our father shared a long journey of cooperation and service. Your words today carried that history with dignity and challenged all of us to turn memory into action for the good of Nigeria. We are forever grateful to you. To the First Lady, Her Excellency, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, thank you for standing by a family with compassion and grace with your women folk.
The founder and president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has accused the chief executive officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, of corruption. Dangote claimed the regulator's boss spent millions of dollars on his children's education abroad, an allegation he says raises serious questions about public accountability. The report.
Speaking during a media briefing at the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Fertilizer Plant in Lekki, Lagos, Dangote alleged that Farouk Ahmed paid about $5 million on secondary school education for his children in Switzerland.
I had actually people making complaint about a regulator who has actually put his children in secondary school, and that secondary school education, which is 6 years, 4 of them cost Nigeria $5 million. I mean, you cannot imagine somebody paying $5 million for educating 5 children. Even my own children, they didn't go to those schools.
The billionaire businessman said the amount allegedly covered 6 years of schooling for 4 children, arguing that such spending does not align with earnings from public service.
So I want to now see what kind of system are we operating that, people are now busy destroying a country, taking money from the government, because when you look at his income does not match paying this kind of fees. I think even if it's me paying $5 million for 6 years for my 4 children, the taxman has to look at my taxes, how much I paid.
Dangote said Nigerians deserve answers, insisting that public officials must be open about their finances. He questioned how such expenses could be met if public funds were being properly managed.
And really, this sort of thing, we're not going to allow it to continue. We'll take it up to the highest authority so that they will look at it. People who have done something wrong must be prosecuted. It must be prosecuted, because there is actually no way where somebody will now come. I mean, today, from where he comes from, Sokoto, people are struggling to pay 100,000 naira for school fees of secondary school. And a lot of children are at home, not going to school because of 100,000 naira.
He also warned that organized cartels within the oil and gas sector pose a serious threat to the economy, which he described as worse than drug trafficking networks. As of the time of this report, the NMDPRA has not issued an official response to the allegations. The Dangote Refinery, Africa's largest, was commissioned in May 2023.
Now, since the Dangote Petroleum Refinery began operations, tensions between the regulator and refinery have played out in public. You can trace this back to comments from Farouk Ahmed, Chief Executive of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, that sparked criticisms and backlash. In mid-2024, Ahmed publicly questioned the quality of products from Dangote Refinery. He said diesels and other outputs from the facility had high sulfur content, far above West African standards, and thus inferior to imported fuel. He argued Nigeria cannot depend solely on the refinery, and that relying on it could risk energy security or a monopoly.
Dangote Refinery is still in the pre-commissioning stage. It has not been licensed yet. We haven't licensed them yet. They are still in pre-commissioning. I think they are about 45% completion rather. So we cannot rely heavily on one refinery to feed the nation, because the Dangote is requesting that we should suspend or stop all importation of petroleum products, especially AGO and jet fuel, and direct all marketers to the refinery.
I don't want to get disrupted. I want to focus on the problem, to solve the problem. Luckily, we have gone a long way in trying to resolve the issue, because if you go around Lagos now and around Abuja, everywhere you see petroleum being sold. So actually, it's a very limited quantity that slipped into the system. So it's not really not to give any excuses, but it's not really that much volume that went in the system.
In the meantime, the House of Representatives joins committees on petroleum resources have stepped into the ongoing dispute between Dangote Refinery and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, led by Honorable Ikenga Imu Ugochinyere and Honorable Henry Okoge. The committees have summoned Alhaji Aliko Dangote and NMDPRA leadership to appear before them over allegations and counter-allegations in the downstream sector. The lawmakers have also directed both parties to halt media comments while the investigation is ongoing, assuring that the matter will be resolved within days. The committees will examine issues relating to import licenses, local refining capacity, and regulatory oversight, stressing that the investigation is in the national interest.
We hear that necessitated the emergency meeting was the growing tension that has returned back in the downstream sector as a result of the concerns raised by Alhaji Aliko Dangote of the Dangote Refinery and the NNDPRA. These issues, for as long as the committee is concerned, is coming at a time where the committee is guiding jealously the stability that we have achieved in the downstream petroleum sector. So the committees met today and agreed to intervene in the matter once again towards finding sustainable solutions. And we can only find sustainable solution when we identify the critical issues that is leading to this tension that has returned. And that is why the committee resolved to write communication to Alhaji Aliko Dangote and also the NNDPRA authority chief to meet with the committee to be able to give us details and insights into what are the underlying issues that is leading to these allegations and counter allegations. Because the committee has the capacity to wade into this matter and find solutions once and for all to these issues.
And joining us via Zoom to discuss this is an energy expert, Engineer Yabagi Sani. Good evening. It's good to have you on the program.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Now, what do you make, or what would I say, what is your understanding of Dangote's public part with the head of a regulatory agency that oversees his operations?
Well, I believe this goes beyond a personal feud. It's not really something between Dangote and Farouk, the head of the agency. It is critically policy and governance conflict about Nigeria's energy future. And Nigerians should really look at it from that perspective. It's about the policy and the governance, the conflict. At its core, there are questions about crude oil supply, pricing, regulation, competition, and whether Nigeria is serious about domestic refining or we are still addicted to imports. If this issue is about building capacity, for domestic supply of petroleum products to Nigeria, I think it wouldn't take this long before government as a regulator, government as a policy maker to wade into this issue. In fact, we shouldn't have allowed it to go to the lengths it has gotten to. I'm glad you mentioned what happened in 2024 when the same Farouk came out to say that the product coming out of Dangote refinery is substandard. It was something that I found very, very unbecoming of a Nigerian that is expected to build, to encourage, value addition, especially in that sector of the economy, where we've been exporting jobs to other climes and then, improvising our own people here. So, and then you look at the issue of sleaze in that industry. This is something, it's a common knowledge. This is something that is known to most people, watchers of the industry. If you look at the way the oil and gas sector has been run in this country, believe you me. I'm glad that Dangote is coming out very strongly to make to force the security agencies and especially the corruption agencies like EFCC, ICPC, to step up to the plate and do what they're supposed to do. Because today is Farouk. Believe you me, tomorrow, if you go into any of those regulatory agencies in that sector of the economy, you will find exactly what Dangote say about the midstream and downstream regulatory agency, happening. They are just taking Nigeria for a ride, So issue of corruption is so endemic in that sector of the economy. And the president is aware. He knows because he's very familiar with that sector of the economy. And I think time has come for us to secure the future of this country, especially as far as energy is concerned. We shouldn't allow few people to just take the country for granted, for a ride, and then for their own personal, benefits, like Dangote has mentioned. Somebody is spending for over $5 million, to train his children, when his own village, millions of children are looking for even how they can secure the minimum, in terms of education. And one individual here, is doing this unholy thing. So I think it is about policy, it's about governance, it's also much about the National Assembly, because National Assembly, we have seen what has happened in the past. I remember the Farouk Lawan's issue with when they investigated the issue of subsidy and what have you. What happened at the end of the day? You got more problems than solution. So it is about the government. It's about the agencies that are supposed to look after the economy of this country, stepping up to the plate, investigate this issue, because somebody like Aliko Dangote would not come out. He's not a loose person that will just come and make a claim that is not true. So we shouldn't just sweep it under the carpet. And National Assembly should not come and say they shouldn't talk about this anymore again. So we still remember what happened during the subsidy investigation, which National Assembly said they were investigating. And like I said, you got more obscurity, in the matter than even when it started. What happened actually at the end of the day? The corruption there became more endemic than it was. So they should allow the agencies to do their work. We don't want National Assembly. National Assembly should have stepped in long time ago. What has they been doing? They're supposed to engage in oversight functions. During the oversight functions, you should have asked questions, these kind of pointing questions. Where are you not allowing the domestic refineries to receive, crude oil, and then to be able to supply this product domestically? Because when we supply crude oil, when we supply petroleum product domestically using our own crude oil, and like Dangote is doing, buying from outside, believe you me, that is the fastest way we can do the economy of this country. But what these regulatory agencies are doing, the officers there are doing, is turning our Commonwealth to their own selfish, interest, and then, taking advantage of the wealth that God has given to this country. So I think National Assembly should stay away from this. This is not oversight function. This is a kind of intervention that, from the past record, I'm not sure their own coming in will solve this problem. They should allow their agencies are supposed to do their work. The government is there. The executive should do what they're supposed to do, because they are the ones that are supposed to ensure that there's good governance. The policies are implemented the way they're supposed to implement it. What we are witnessing today is a situation where people are just, taking advantage of their positions and then making Nigeria to become more and more poor in terms of how we take advantage of what God has given to us. The international community is watching, believe you me. The investors are watching what we are doing with the $20 billion investment. This is not something that is not an ordinary investment. The whole world is looking at what we are doing to Dangote, and you are scaring away foreign investment. It will not come. And in spite of the effort by the president, going all over the place, going to the visiting. Let's just say, look at your own national who has sunk in this amount of money, and look at the how you are playing with the man's investments. You want to frustrate him. So, and you want me, that I'm not even your citizen, to come and to put my money in your country. They'll only come and then steal out of our wealth. And that's why you have crude oil theft is thriving. In spite of the regulatory agency you have there, NEPRC, what are they doing? Crude oil theft is still going on, and they won't do anything. So this is why I asked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to please wake up and do what is the needful, because he knows what to do. This is not, he's not a novice as far as this industry is concerned. From his Salad days, when he finished school, he worked with ExxonMobil as their accountant, the financial controller or something like that. So he knows everything about this industry. And he should please help this country. God has brought him this time around, and this is the time that I think we should take advantage of what God has given to us as far as crude oil and gas is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much, Yabagi Isani, for that detailed analysis of the situation on ground. I guess we have to leave it there. For now, we would speak to you some other time. Moving on to other stories, Nigeria's headline inflation has dropped to 14.45% in the month of November, according to a report by the National Bureau of Statistics. The report said the figure reduced from the October 2025 headline inflation rate of 16.05%. It said the November 2025 headline inflation rate showed a decrease of 1.6% compared to the October 2025 headline inflation rate on a year-on-year basis. The headline inflation rate was 20.15% lower than the rate recorded in November 2024. It attributed the reduction to the rate of increase in the average prices of dried tomatoes, cassava tuber, periwinkle, grounded pepper, eggs, crayfish, melon unshelled, oxtail and onions, among others. The former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN, has demanded the immediate recusal of the EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede, from an ongoing investigation involving him. In a statement on Monday, Malami, through his spokesperson, Muhammad Doka, accused the anti-graft agency of bias, political persecution, and personal vendetta, linking the probe to his recent defection to the African Democratic Congress, ADC. He described the investigation as driven by historical animosity, referencing his tenure as AGF and the Justice Ayo Salami Judicial Commission of Inquiry, in which Olukoyede served as secretary. Malami argued that the current probe mirrors retaliatory persecution. The former minister also demanded either immediate arraignment or release within 24 hours, citing constitutional provisions, and warned against the use of foreign convicted individuals as witnesses. Malami's legal team has initiated steps to safeguard his rights, including obtaining certified copies of the petitions and EFCC investigations reports to prepare his defense. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has denied claims that it is being used to target opposition politicians. In a statement on its official X account, the EFCC said allegations of weaponization and selective targeting misrepresent its role in fighting economic and financial crimes. The agency emphasized that its authority comes from the EFCC Establishment Act, which mandates it to investigate and prosecute all forms of financial crimes, except for political office holders with constitutional immunity. The EFCC noted that arrests and prosecutions in the past 2 years have included both ruling and opposition party members, insisting that accountability should not be politicized. The Commission also warned against attempts to intimidate or influence investigations, calling on Nigerians to support its anti-corruption mandate. A federal government decision is stirring debate in Abuja. Plans to relocate the headquarters of the Bank of Industry from the capital to Lagos has raised questions about cost, fairness, and policy direction. Amina Ibrahim has more.
The Bank of Industry sits in the heart of Abuja's Central Business District. The structure reflects heavy federal investments, but new directive says the institution operation base will move to Lagos. The decision has drawn criticism in the capital. Public affairs commentator Salihu Mahmood argues that the move goes beyond finance. He described it as poor prioritization and other step in concentrating major national institutions in Lagos.
So I think the Minister of Trade and Investment should rightly advise this is not good at this time. Don't forget, not long ago, Central Bank transferred some departments to Lagos under Cardozo. A lot of Nigerians criticize it because government seems to, at this time that people are unemployed, be involved in wastage, which ought not to be. These monies you are going to use for this relocation, you can as well use it to employ unemployed Nigerians who have the expertise in that aspect. So in all ramification, it is very, very wrong at this time to have relocated, even though I know it is under process, to have made such decision. Because sometimes it is good we do what is right, when and how, and not what satisfies them. No matter what the Minister of Trade and Investment will say, people will say there is a Yoruba agenda. What is the Yoruba agenda? Since Mr. President hails from Lagos, maybe he wants all the sensitive processors to be in Lagos. Mr. President is a Nigerian. The same way Hausaman we perceive him, same way Bagi, Gade, Gana, Nupe, Igbo, Yoruba, Bokobaru, Batonu, Ishekiri, and other tribes of Nigeria.
Residents on the streets of Abuja share similar views. Many are arguing federal government to spread agencies and institutions across the country to support balance developments instead of clustering them in Lagos.
You have to be doing things already in Lagos. Bringing it to Abuja, that is the main capital of the federal capital territory. So the idea of moving all this, the main headquarters to Abuja and to Lagos is not actually the best. It's not actually good. Because Lagos on the whole is supposed to be a country on its own self. They are moving things to it now.
Lagos is congested. They will have a lot of industries in Lagos already. We have a lot of parastatals in Lagos. So as for me, I don't see the need of moving the Bank of Industry to Lagos. I felt it should be in Abuja here, being the federal capital. And it shouldn't be like they are trying to decentralize the country, where we now begin to drag between Lagos and Abuja, which is the capital. It's been okay here. I don't see the reason why it was taken to Lagos, probably political or something.
Why only Lagos? See Kaduna, see Kogi, see Nasarawa here. A massive land is there. Take some institution there. All this banditry bush, forest bush will be occupied by institution. I will not have all this insurgent issue again.
For now, questions continue to trail the decision. The government has yet to offer a detailed public explanation to the relocation and its cost implication. Amina Ibrahim, Trust TV.
And in another development, the federal government has been urged to invest more in the nation's security infrastructure to ensure that Nigeria's data security is fully guaranteed. Speaking on Trust TV's Current Affairs program, 30 Minutes with Manir Ali, a digital system security expert, Yusuf Salisu Funtua, noted that with such investments, Nigeria would no longer need to rely on services from outside countries to manage any of its operations. Funtua, who was speaking against the backdrop of the recent concerns expressed by Nigerians following the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the Federal Inland Revenue Service and a French organization, noted that Nigeria has the needed resources and talents to achieve digital sovereignty. He noted that Nigeria should have necessary laws, systems, and processes in place that will enable it enter into agreement on digital security from a position of control.
There is a particular organization that is signing an MOU with Nigeria's FIRS, and that people feel will have direct access and control over the Nigerian tax data. Now, you cannot find Nigeria's tax data on Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter. And those are, companies that, globalized the world, and everyone is interacting, and it sort of made the world a global village. So that is the distinction. So what we are talking about here is, working with an organization that is hosted by a country that has, allegedly some track record, this discouraging track records in other countries, that will have access to a very sensitive data. And that is one of the reasons why some people are asking for the data protection law to categorically state which class of data, what are the regulations on the type and class of data that is being shared with other people that are working and partnering with Nigeria.
Original inhabitants of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, are calling for constitutional amendments to secure their land rights as they seek to end decades of demolition and displacement that has left many homeless. As Abuja continues to rise as a symbol of national unity and development, the original owners of the land insist that the foundation of the nation's capital must be rebuilt on justice, equity and inclusion. Gaza Yakubu completes that report.
For nearly half a century, since the establishment of the Federal Capital Territory in 1976, communities that ceded their ancestral lands have continued to demand recognition, compensation and inclusion in decision-making processes. Recently, the indigenous communities of Kuchibedna made headlines after their settlement was demolished, allegedly without any resettlement or alternative relocation plan.
Now, as we are talking to you, as you are interviewing me, all the FCT villages can be destroyed and demolished by a minister who you didn't elect, and you cannot do anything about it. This kind of person, he is saying he's dead. Even Nigeria are saying he's infrastructural the project man. Project man destroying villages of the original native that are over 58 villages according to the Millennium Development Goal Community Study 2008. Is it the project man? When the people are having road network in the FCT city center and the villagers have no school, have no water, have no hospital, have no agricultural issue, have no future, have no belonging, have no area to claim as their own. Who does that except FCT? FCT is not a virgin land.
While the city center boasts magnificent homes, modern infrastructure and well-paved roads, the original inhabitants live in what they describe as parallel world marked by neglect and deprivation. Residents argue that the constitutional framework governing the FCT, where all land is vested in the federal government and the territory is administered by an appointed minister rather than an elected governor, has contributed to years of marginalization and poor access to basic services.
How do you pay taxes and then you are unable to demand better governance from the people you pay taxes to? That's simply because you don't elect the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. And the President is said to be the governor of the FCT. How accessible is the governor? You can't see him and all of that. So we want the presidency to shift the governorate to an elective person and then let there be an FCT House of Assembly. I mean, just like it's done in other places, increase representation, it will increase governance.
Central to their demands is the call for the establishment of a dedicated committee to address the long-standing grievances of indigenous communities. The Federal Commissioner representing the FCT at the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Ayuba Jacob Ngbako, has urged the FCT administration to urgently engage stakeholders and resolve the issues.
By inheritance, we are entitled for customary title. Since government has come to us, we should be able to say, look, we are here, we want this, we want that. I feel that the Honorable Minister should, without further delay, have what we call land education committee. If we are to be fair to indigenes, when they have somebody in land education committee, they will take care of their issues, and the government will know their issue better.
The indigenous people of the FCT are now pushing for constitutional amendments that will grant the territory full statehood, including an elected governor, a review of the Land Use Act, which they say undermined their land rights and guaranteed political representation. Gaza Yakubu, Trust Television News, Abuja.
And to business news now. The founder and president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has announced a nationwide petrol price reduction to 739 naira per litre starting Tuesday, with the initial implementation at MRS stations in Lagos. Speaking at the Lekki refinery on Sunday, Dangote revealed that the refinery had already cut its gantry price from 828 naira to 699 naira per litre 2 days earlier. He stressed that the 739 naira price will be strictly enforced and vowed to combat price manipulation. Dangote also expressed concern that some filling stations were deliberately keeping pump prices high, undermining the intended reduction. And away from Nigeria, at least 37 people have died in flash floods caused by heavy rains in Morocco's Atlantic coastal province of Safi, authorities said on Monday. 14 others remain in medical care, including 2 in intensive care. The downpour on Sunday flooded homes and shops in Safi's old town, swept away cars and cut off roads. Schools were suspended as residents assessed damage and cleaned up. Local media videos showed flooded streets, submerged cars, and rescue operations using boats. Authorities reported at least 70 homes and shops affected. The heavy rains follow 7 years of drought that had emptied some of Morocco's main reservoirs. It's now time for Sports Update with Kabir Lawal.
Team Nigeria delivered a commanding performance as athletics events concluded at the 4th African Youth Games in Angola, finishing with an impressive haul of 11 medals to underline the depth of the country's emerging talent. The Nigerian contingent secured 6 gold and 5 silver medals across track and field events, asserting clear dominance and rounding off a highly successful athletics campaign at the Games. Nigeria made an early statement in the sprint, particularly in the women's 100 meters, where Rosemary Chigozie stormed to gold with a winning time of 11.77 seconds. She finished ahead of South Africa's Oluchi Ndubweze, who claimed silver in 12.12 seconds, while Morocco's Maria Sadi settled for bronze in 12.27 seconds. In the men's 100 meters, Emmanuel Akolu added to Nigeria's medal tally by winning silver after clocking 10.76 seconds, finishing behind South African's Mika Africa, who won the race in 10.67 seconds. Still on sport news, Nigeria Super Eagles are set to enjoy a rare logistic advantage at the 2025 African Cup of Nations, where they move to their official base camp in Fez, Morocco. With Morocco's newly introduced base camp system for AFCON, many of the travel and accommodation challenges that have traditionally affected teams at the tournament appear to have been eliminated. For Nigeria, the benefits are immediate and significant. The Super Eagles will be based in the historic northern city of Fez, where they are also scheduled to play all 3 of their group matches. This means the team will not have to travel for games during the group phases, a luxury not shaped by their opponent, Tanzania, Tunisia, and Uganda, who will face Nigeria in group play, are also based in Rabat and will have to make repeated trips to Fez for their matches against the Super Eagles. That's Sport News. I am Kabir Lawal.
And with that, we've come to the end of Trust TV News tonight. We thank you for joining us. Do remember to join us on across all our media platforms and join our YouTube live stream for more news. I am Fatima Abbas Hassan. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant night rest.